Hi all, welcome back. In the last couple of sessions regarding, I was exploring Claude Code, and I have shared an installation of Claude Code on my Mac, and then I played around, built a small app, and it was running on my local host. The app can take a endpoint URL, which is a YouTube video, and it will convert it to a basically a blog. And I showed how easily, it was done within a few minutes using Claude Code. Then I explored plugins. So how do you add a plugin? And then we were exploring skills. So in this session, I'm going to further explore skills. So again, skill is something, and it's like an additional capability which gives Claude additional things to do, and a skill can be added by a skills adding a skills.md file I showed in the last video. So if you go to the Claude Code documentation, you will see that there is a section on bundled skills. Bundled skills, they are a part of Claude Code. They're already available in the session, in every session. So we will look at some of the bundle skills. So I'm right now in my Claude session, and if I do slash, right, then I will be able to see what all is available to me, but then I will have to give the name of the skill. And then, so what are some of the skills available? Are, let's say, there is something called batch. So if you see, it says research and plan a large scale change, then execute it in parallel across 530 isolated work tree agents that each open a PR. So this is something that they already provided in case somebody wants to use it like for their work. So another skill which comes bundled is called Claude API. So this one I had Claude API, right? The first one. Build apps with the Claude API, which is using Anthropic SDK. So this Claude API I had used, I demoed in my last session by using Claude API, Anthropic's endpoint. I was able to, that's where I was able to connect to the YouTube and then be able to convert it into a blog post. So the Claude API basically, um, it's uh, it's an external API tool which covers basically it, which activates automatically as soon as when we want to do something related to the Anthropic. So then the next built-in skill is called debug. Okay, so debug is enable debug logging for this session, right? That's basically pretty basic. And then other one, important one is called loop. So what it does, it will run a prompt repeatedly on an interval, while the session stays open. This is usually very good for if you're checking something continuously, periodic, like we do, like we do watch in Unix. We run that command. And then finally, there is one called simplify. Simplify is review change code for reuse quality and efficiency, and then fix any issues which is found. So these are the skills. So for example, we can say simplify, and we can say anything, like focus on memory efficiency. So then next, so whenever if we run a program, if whenever we create any code, or whenever we do anything else, it will probably make sure that it focuses on the memory efficiency. So these are the bundled skills that already cover it. And then some of the other stuff that I discussed was creating your own skill, which we already tried in the last video. So basically, I just created a hello, skill, but we can have multiples. There are other things, and also there is something called get status. No, I don't want to do that, right? So basically, also there's a website called skills.sh. So that lists all the skills that are available and that can be used by the agent. Okay, so I will go back to the slides, one of the slides that I had covered in my earlier introduction sessions. So we've done so much work on Claude. So we are using Claude Code, we have plugins and skill. So all that falls under this AI agent. So Claude is our AI agent. So how does MCP fit in? Because MCP is protocol. It's a model context protocol. It doesn't have any AI in it, but the way it's being used today in the industry and leaders is basically you can have multiple MCP servers. So your MCP server can be just a piece of software which does things like it talks to an external API and gets the data and right amount of information that will help your AI agent Claude to make the right decisions. And you can have multiple MCP servers, and AI agent can talk to all of them. And this, how once you build an MCP server, let's say you have a Python code base and you build an MCP server that talks to external agency, let's say any external travel agency, and it will get information about some travel availability of certain places. So if that is your MCP server, it's talking to the external endpoint knowledge base database and is retrieving all that information, and it will be specific to what you want, because in general if you have an AI agent Claude and you ask it, it will still be able to answer all those. But your MCP server will have the a more special capability based on what you can refine those searches, and then you can add the MCP server to the Claude using, there is in the .claude folder you can have a config.json, and you can give the name of your MCP server and what its like high level capability. So then when after that if you run Claude will first go and check, you can say use tools and then you give the name of your MCP. So then Claude, before answering or before going outside, it will first check in the local your MCP server. If it's there, it will use that MCP server to extract the data. So this is kind of makes it very powerful, because you are combining your intelligence, you're combining the capabilities of the AI and with multiple MCP servers, and you're able to extract the right amount of information that your user or your that fits your use cases. So now in the next session I am going to build an MCP server, and then I will connect that, I will add it to the Claude code, and then with this whole piece, basically how Claude will use the MCP server, that will be covered. Okay, so before I end this session, I wanted to go to show you some of the stuff that was already available. So a lot of, since this is a Kubernetes Docker container channel, I want to connect the AI and how AI can be used, Cloud and other capabilities can be used for container management. So if you see there in the Docker Hub, they already have a bunch of MCP servers. So these are already available. So you can search by name or we can just see. So for example, the main popular one is the Docker's MCP server. Yeah, like this one, Docker Hub official MCP server. Yeah, this one. So this is something also to explore. So when it can be downloaded, and once we configure it, then it can help us, figure out, okay, what's check if a repository exists, create a new repo, get some tag information, get the details of images. All those things can be so the Claude, it can be fed to the our Claude agent, and then at sitting at my desktop without going to hub.docker.com, I can just ask my Claude, okay, what is the latest available image, what is, the some that kind of information. So this is something to explore. We can just add it to our already existing Claude, right? It has all these features. That is something to explore. So, and the another thing is, yeah, you will need a token, of course, and but basically these are the tools. So each MCP provides tools. So these are the tools: check repo tag, create repo, is there any Docker hardened images which is vulnerability free available, list namespace, and all these are all the capabilities it provides. Another important one for Kubernetes is the Kubernetes MCP server that is basically available on GitHub, and it does similar things where if you see the README, it does provide the details of what it does. It can do some basic information about the listing of namespaces. This is built with the in collaboration with OpenShift, but it gives information about the Kubernetes resources, pods, events, projects, configuration, and this is also something that can be explored. So these are a couple of things that are already available before somebody goes and they build their own MCP server. So in the next session, before I build mine, I will connect already existing, let's say the Docker Hub MCP server to the Claude, and then I will use Claude to list, okay, what is available in the repo. So let's explore that.